I found out I didn't matter when the will was read. Not in the dramatic way you might imagine. No stormy room, no screaming match, just a quiet table, a plain manila folder, and a lawyer who didn't look up when he said my name. Correction, when he didn't say my name. And the residence at 418. Maple Grove Lane will pass to Ms. Claire Armstrong. My sister-in-law. She hadn't set foot in the house for more than 4 days in the past 10 years. She never called unless she needed something. Never offered help. But somehow, when it came down to it, she was the one who got the house. Not me. Not the woman who gave up her job, her apartment, her plans. Not the woman who slept in the downstairs guest room for a decade so her in-laws could age in place with dignity. Not the one who changed the bedpans and ran the oxygen tank and argued with insurance providers on hold for hours. Claire got the deed. I got silence. My name is Eleanor Moore. I'm 42. I used to be a cardiac nurse in Portland. I now live in a rented duplex on the edge of town and handle property evaluations for a private firm. Back then, I was a wife, a full-time caregiver, and the only person keeping my in-laws alive and dignified inside that damn house. Until they died. Then I was just the help again. When the will was finished, the lawyer cleared his throat and said, "Thank you for coming." My husband sat next to me, rigid. He didn't look at me. Claire smiled faintly, like she didn't want to, but couldn't help it. She had what she wanted. The drive home was quiet. We didn't fight. We didn't cry. We just existed in parallel, like strangers who'd once shared an emergency but couldn't recall the details anymore. That night, he said, they just wanted to keep it in the family. I nodded. Because I knew what he meant. Not my family. Not me. Just blood. I didn't pack that night. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't break a single dish. I cooked breakfast the next morning, poured his coffee, took my vitamins, folded the laundry. Then I opened my laptop, clicked on the county registry, and read the official transfer of deed. Signed, notarized, filed, final. Claire Armstrong was now the legal owner of the house I'd kept running for 10 years. The house where I scrubbed the mold from the basement walls, where I installed grab bars and non-slip mats, where I caught her mother mid-fall at 3 a.m. when she forgot where the bathroom was. None of that counted. What counted was bloodline. Not time. Not labor. Not sacrifice. 3 days later, Claire came by to walk through the property. That's what she called it. She brought coffee, smiled too brightly, wore heels on hardwood like she wanted the floor to know she was in charge now. "This place has great bones," she said, peering into the living room. "I've been thinking maybe I'll rent it out. Or flip it. Depends on the market." I stood in the kitchen, where I'd pured vegetables for her father when his teeth gave out. She didn't ask how I was doing. She didn't thank me. She just said, "You'll have until the end of the month to move out, yeah?" Like it was a favor. Like she was giving me time. I nodded. Then I turned off the kettle and asked her to lock the door on her way out. She walked out of that house like she'd just closed escrow on a dream. She never once turned around. And that's when I knew. She'd been planning this for a while. She had rewritten the story, told her parents I was only here for stability, that I didn't really want to work anymore, that I liked having everything taken care of. She reframed my sacrifice as laziness, my loyalty as dependence, my presence as convenience. And they bought it, all of them. I didn't cry when she left. I didn't call my husband. I didn't tell my friends. I just went to the hall closet and opened the shoebox I kept hidden under the towels. Inside was a flash drive, documents, expenses, logs, med logs, photos. Everything I'd recorded, not out of paranoia, but for medical accuracy. 10 years, every day documented. None of it mattered to the will, but it mattered to me. I didn't know how I'd do it yet. I didn't have the plan, but I made the decision in that moment not to scream, not to sue, to wait, to watch. And when the time came, to own what they thought they'd taken. They moved in the summer I turned 32. His father had slipped in the shower, hip replacement. His mother was already showing signs, forgetting appointments, leaving pots on the stove. No official diagnosis then, just mild cognitive decline. We told ourselves it was temporary, just until they stabilized, just until we figured out next steps. The next steps became a staircase, and I was the one climbing it every day for the next 10 years. It started small. Grocery runs, medication reminders, cleaning the tub. Then came oxygen tanks, adult diapers, physical therapy. I learned how to read a pulse ox monitor in my sleep. My nursing license expired 2 years in. I didn't renew it. No point. I wasn't getting paid. No employer would touch someone who hadn't worked a hospital shift since the Obama administration. My resume withered. My clothes aged. My world shrank to the layout of that house. Claire sent flowers on birthdays, emailed once every 4 months, called only when it was convenient, never when it was critical. The one time I asked her to cover for a weekend, she said she had a Pilates retreat. They need someone they trust, she texted after canceling. Apparently, I was convenient, but she was sacred. Their father stopped walking in year 5. I installed the wheelchair ramp myself. No thanks. Their mother forgot my name in year 7, called me that nice nurse, said it with a smile. Claire posted a throwback photo that year. My beautiful parents, thank you for everything you've taught me. She didn't tag me, didn't mention where they lived, but she got 143 likes. One comment said, "You're such a good daughter." I screenshotted it, filed it, not for revenge, for record. Year 8, hospice got involved, not for either of them, yet, just consultations. They said I had excellent caregiver stamina, asked if I had formal training. I said yes. They said I was underutilized. I agreed. No one asked what I needed. Not once. My husband said we were doing the right thing. He didn't say, "Thank you." He didn't take over even once. He said he had to keep working. Someone had to pay the mortgage. That was true. But I was the one keeping the lights on. One afternoon, while his father was asleep and I was scrubbing the grout in the guest bathroom, Claire called. I put it on speaker while I worked. "She's talking nonsense again," Claire said. "Are you sure she doesn't need a facility?" I didn't answer right away, just kept scrubbing. Claire went on. "I just don't want you getting too comfortable in that house. I mean, I know it's a lot of work, but it's also stability, right?" I didn't say a word. She didn't need me to. She was planting the narrative, just in case. They stopped calling me daughter around year 9. It wasn't hostile. It was subtle. They introduced me as Elena, who lives with us. Once, I caught my mother-in-law on a video call with Claire. "I don't know what we'd do without her," she said, then paused, then added, "But your family, you always will be." Claire smiled through the screen. I closed the laptop and walked out of the room. When they both passed within 5 months of each other, I didn't cry. I called the doctor, the funeral home. I coordinated the logistics, wrote the obituaries, booked the flowers, canceled the oxygen service. Claire flew in for both memorials, wore tasteful black, spoke for 3 minutes, hugged everyone, then went back to her condo in California. The house stayed silent. My husband didn't ask how I was doing. He just asked what we were going to do, now that it's all over. That's when I knew he didn't understand. It wasn't over. It had just started. 6 weeks later, we sat in that lawyer's office, and I watched a decade of care erased by a signature. People assume betrayal is loud. It isn't. Sometimes it's a legal document in a folder. Sometimes it's the absence of your name. Sometimes it's the silence that follows when you finally understand. You were only ever the placeholder until the bloodline came home. I didn't burn the house down. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even argue. I just moved out and opened a new account, not at a bank, at the assessor's office. Claire called it sentimental, said the house had been in the family for years, said it was only fair that it go to someone who carried the bloodline. She said all this while I was still boxing up the medical records, still bleaching the baseboards, still clearing out prescriptions, still sweeping the floor where her father had fallen for the last time. I didn't answer when she spoke. I let her fill the space. That was her pattern. Let her talk long enough, and she'd say exactly what she thought. Like how she always knew the will would reflect their wishes. How she tried to bring it up with us, but didn't want to cause friction. How technically I wasn't entitled to anything, not being blood. She always lingered on that word, said it like it proved something. My husband stayed neutral. He called it a tough situation, said we should be grateful for the years we had. He meant them. I meant the work. He moved in with Claire's silence like it didn't insult me, like I hadn't kept his parents alive for 10 years, like I hadn't turned down every job offer within 100 miles because they couldn't be left alone. I asked him once if he thought it was fair. He said, "It's not about fair. It's about what they wanted." I nodded. Then I packed the last box and left the key on the table. I found a rental on the edge of town. Bare floors, thin walls, no history. I signed a 6-month lease and paid first and last in cash. Then I went quiet. Publicly, I was done. Moved on. No bad blood, no lawsuit, no confrontation. Privately, I was watching. Because what Claire didn't understand was that houses, unlike people, can't lie about their value. They leave trails, paper ones, legal ones, and trails can be followed. I pulled the deed transfer, public record, read every line. They'd moved the house to Claire 6 months before the funeral. That meant while I was still managing medication schedules and hospice visits, she'd already secured the prize. I checked the property tax filings. She hadn't filed the exemption. She hadn't even changed the mailing address. That told me what I needed to know. She wasn't planning to live there. She was planning to cash in. I waited 4 months. Then I checked the listings. There it was. Charming 2-bed heritage property, perfect for renovation or small business use. Asking price, $379,000. She hadn't cleaned the gutters in 10 years, but she called it move-in ready. Typical. I didn't call her, didn't react. I just forwarded the listing to someone I trusted, someone she didn't know. Carla and I had worked together at the medical practice a decade earlier. She had since become a small-time investor, flipping homes in nearby counties. I gave her the name. I gave her the cash. She put in the offer, asking price. No contingencies. All through her LLC. Claire accepted within 48 hours. I watched the sale go through for my rental kitchen. Fresh documents. New deed. The house was mine again. Only this time, my name wasn't on it. Not yet. Claire didn't know. She posted once, though. Officially sold. Ready for the next chapter. One comment asked who the buyer was. She replied, just some investor. I saved that post. The house sat empty for 31 days. Then the renovations began. Small updates, necessary ones, new locks, modern wiring, HVAC upgrade, minor roof work, and a new sign on the lawn. For rent, inquire within monthly, $2,400. Deposit, first, plus last I waited. Claire reached out 2 months later. I know this is weird, she said. But do you still know the person who bought the house? I'm trying to get in touch. I asked why. She hesitated. I'm thinking about renting it back. Just for a few months while I get things in order. I told her I'd look into it. Then I hung up and mailed her the rental application. Blank, unlabeled, just the new terms. Rent due on the 1st, late fee on the 5th, no pets, no exceptions. She wouldn't recognize the handwriting. But I knew she'd recognize the return address, my initials, typed in the corner of the lease. EM. She didn't return the form right away. Claire always thought terms were negotiable. That rule's bent if you smiled the right way. That she could talk her way around anything because someone always needed her to stay happy. But she needed the house. And I didn't need to be liked. 3 days after I sent the lease packet, she texted, Hey, rent seems a little steep. Can we talk? I didn't respond. 2 days later, Hi, just checking if you got my message. Still interested? I waited until Friday. Then I sent the automated template. Rental terms are fixed. Please confirm move-in date or forfeit hold. She signed within an hour. I knew why she wanted back in. Her next chapter hadn't gone to plan. The boutique business she launched on Instagram had fizzled. The co-investor she'd bragged about had ghosted. The lease she'd signed in a new development fell through after she missed 2 payments. I didn't need to dig. People like Claire post their own autopsies online. She needed stability. She needed something that felt like home. She needed the place she thought she'd claimed for good. So she returned to it. At market rate. She moved in with 3 suitcases and no furniture. Asked the contractor to fix the upstairs toilet. Said the living room felt smaller than she remembered. I stayed quiet. I watched from a distance. Legally, emotionally, physically. I wasn't her landlord, not on paper. Carla was. But every piece of mail she received passed through me. Every service request got reviewed by my assistant. Every notice posted to her door was written by my hand. She asked once, politely, if rent could be delayed a week. Just once. I declined. She called Carla, who sent back our policy. We do not adjust terms for individual tenants. Please refer to your signed lease. She paid. Late. The fee was automatic. 6 months in, she asked about buying the house back. Said she missed having roots. Said she felt connected to the place. Said she had plans to invest long term. I had Carla respond. The owner is not considering a sale at this time. Then I had her raise the rent. Not aggressively, just enough. Just enough to apply pressure. The following month, I drove past the house. Once, briefly. The porch was cluttered. Her car was gone. A delivery box sat untouched for days. She wasn't home. She was avoiding it. Claire never did well in spaces she couldn't control. My husband, ex-husband now, sent a message around the time. Said Claire was going through a lot. Said he didn't want to take sides. There were no sides. There was just truth. He hadn't paid attention until it affected him. I didn't reply. Claire finally called. Not a text, not an email, a call. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice was slower now, less glossy. She said she was struggling, that she didn't know who to talk to, that maybe we could have coffee. She didn't mention the house. She didn't say sorry. She just floated the offer. Like history could be undone with caffeine and conversation. I saved the voicemail. I didn't respond. Because forgiveness isn't a conversation. It's a transaction. And she couldn't afford it. Not anymore. She never asked who bought the house. Not once. She saw the offer. She saw the LLC. She saw the dollar signs. She thought that was enough. Claire never cared where things came from, just where they landed. And at the time, the offer landed perfectly. Above asking, no contingencies, cash. Too clean to question. The LLC Carla used wasn't flashy. It was quiet, anonymous. One of 3 she operated for private clients. I'd used it twice before. Once for a duplex, once for a condo flip in Vancouver. The paper trail was fireproof. No direct ties to me, no red flags, no obvious signals. That's the thing about legality. It's not about hiding. It's about being boring. And Claire never looked twice at anything that didn't shine. At closing, she signed every document with that same tight, triumphant smile. Probably imagined herself walking away smarter than the rest of us, turning emotional inheritance into pure liquidity. She didn't know I was watching the whole time. Didn't know I had the escrow officer on speed dial. Didn't know the funds she thought were Carla's were mine. Didn't know I was the one who wrote the check she posed with. She posted about it. Closed. Time to take control of my next chapter. Grateful to walk away on my terms. It got 86 likes and a "you're such a boss" comment from someone who clearly hadn't read the fine print. I didn't respond, but I downloaded the photo. After she moved back in as a renter, she became quieter, less sure of herself, still pretending, still performing, just not with the same conviction. Her lawn went untended. Her Instagram posts slowed. Her car stayed in the driveway for days at a time. She'd made herself small again, hoping no one would notice. I noticed, but I didn't intervene. 3 months after the rent increase, she submitted a repair request. The roof leaked, minor damage, nothing catastrophic. Still, we had 30 days to fix it under code. I approved the contractor instantly, sent the most expensive roofer on our list. They did the job, then sent her a copy of the invoice, just for visibility. $14,800. Claire called Carla in a panic. I thought the owner was responsible. Carla was polite. Correct. We covered the cost. But since you're on a net lease, it's deductible from your security deposit if damage is deemed tenant-related. She hung up without saying goodbye. The following week, she missed rent. 2 days late. We applied the fee, as outlined. She emailed. Subject line, "Can we talk?" We declined. When her lease came up for renewal, she didn't ask to buy the house back, didn't ask to extend, didn't even negotiate. She simply returned the keys early, said she was moving on, said she needed something smaller. After she left, I walked through the house one last time. Empty walls, repainted ceilings. The air smelled like someone trying to erase themselves. But you can't unlive in a house, and you can't unwrite the deed. I opened the file on my desk, transferred the property title out of the LLC, signed the new owner as Elena Moore, filed with the county the same day. No announcement, no ceremony, just a new name on the record, mine. Claire would check one day, I knew. Out of pride, out of suspicion, out of habit. And when she did, she'd see it. The name she erased. Back on the house she took. Not with vengeance, not with fire, but with ink. The first rent invoice said exactly what it needed to. $2,400 due by the 1st. Late fee applied after the 5th. No smiley faces, no signature, no personalization. It was printed in black ink on white paper, folded once, delivered on time. She emailed Carla 3 hours after receiving it. Hi, I thought we might be able to discuss terms, just considering our history. We responded with the same phrase we always used. All terms are outlined in the lease agreement. She never replied. Over the next 6 months, I watched her slip. Late rent once, then twice. A bounce payment in February, a service request for the oven, another for possible mold in the laundry room. Both handled quickly, both followed by invoices. That was the thing she never grasped. Emotion doesn't get you out of a contract. She started leaving voicemails. I'm doing my best, but this place has been draining me. I know you're just doing your job. It's just hard. I didn't think this would feel so cold. I didn't delete them. I didn't respond. Because being a landlord isn't about warmth. It's about terms. And I had learned from the best. People who smiled while erasing me. Now I was simply enforcing what they taught me. The only exception I ever made? She asked to keep her security deposit for moving expenses. I mail back a copy of the final walkthrough with deductions listed line by line, carpet cleaning, damaged blinds, non-compliance with paint clause, partial mold, remediation, total deductions, $2,127.56, deposit return, $72.44. She cashed the check. Months passed. I rented the house to a young couple after that. They were polite, paid early, fixed the garden, sent holiday cards. They didn't know the history. They didn't need to. One afternoon, I got a letter addressed to the property. It was forwarded to my office. Inside was a note on soft linen paper. No name. Just this. You probably think I don't feel anything about how things turned out, but I do. I hope you know. I'm sorry. No return address. But the handwriting was familiar. So was the timing. I filed it under miscellaneous correspondence. No reply needed, because there was nothing left to say. I hadn't punished her. I just delivered the invoice. Later that week, my ex-husband emailed. Claire's been talking a lot about the house. Thinks you never forgave her. Thinks you planned this whole thing. I didn't correct him. He wasn't wrong. Forgiveness doesn't come in conversations. It comes in contracts, executed, fulfilled, filed, and closed. I didn't throw her out. I didn't change the locks. I didn't show up to yell or cry or demand an apology she never planned to give. I simply waited for the lease to expire. Sent her the non-renewal notice by certified mail. Filed it in the tenant archive. And went on with my day. There was no grand showdown. No final scene with lightning or screaming. Just a small silver key dropped into a stamped envelope. Postmarked 2 days before move-out. No note inside. She didn't even write my name on the envelope. Just to management. As if the house had never known who I was. As if I hadn't been its caretaker for a decade. That's the thing about ownership. You don't have to announce it. You just hold it. Quietly. Legally. Permanently. The day after she left, I drove to the house. Not to reclaim it. To confirm it. The porch creaked the same way. The hallway still caught afternoon light just right. The corner of the kitchen still bore a faint stain from where I once dropped a bowl of soup and laughed for the first time in a month. It had all changed, and not at all. I didn't stay long. I walked from room to room, taking mental inventory, not of damage, but of silence. It was the first time in 15 years that the house felt truly mine. Not borrowed, not earned, not fought for, owned. I walked out the front door, locked it behind me, and didn't look back. No photo, no keepsake, no social media post, just the deed, filed and final, under my name, Elena Moore. A week later, a letter arrived at my work address, this time from my ex-husband. Claire moved to Arizona. She said she couldn't stand being near the house. I think part of her still doesn't understand how it happened. She just keeps saying, "I thought I had it. I really thought it was mine." I didn't reply. Some people mistake possession for permanence. Some people confuse blood with right. Some people don't understand how the world works until it invoices them. I teach now. Accounting, asset law, and ethics. Mostly to 20-somethings who think real life hasn't started yet. I tell them to read the fine print, track the details, and never assume anyone's looking out for you, because they're not. Occasionally a student asks me why I left nursing. I say, it stopped paying. That's the truth, and also not the whole story. But the whole story belongs to me, not the internet, not my ex, not Claire, me. Sometimes people still say revenge is petty, that it's bitter, that it changes nothing. They're wrong. It changes everything, just not for them. One last thing. I keep the original will, the one that excluded me. It's folded in a red folder at the back of a locked drawer. Behind it is the current deed, filed under my name, with no asterisks, no attachments, just one word at the bottom, owner.